Meeting to order, please. Senate Health and Human Services meeting. If you wouldn't mind, opens up in prayers. Senator Hodges, please. You're on mic number 2, number 3.
Pray with me, please. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for the many blessings you've bestowed upon us, especially the opportunity to be here today in this beautiful state and to attend to the affairs of this legislative Senate. Lead us and guide us in all we do, and we ask these things in Christ's name. Amen.
The volume was sort of low there. Sorry about that, but thank you for your prayer, Senator Hodges. We have 2 bills today. We have Senate Bill 348 and House Bill 181. We're going to go with the Senate this time. First time that we've heard this bill, but it's pretty straightforward. Senator Williams, the floor is yours. Hold on just a second. We got your mic going.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is probably going to be the simplest bill you will see this year, this session. Second page, line 37. We're changing the number 180 to 60. What this is a bill that refers to pronouncement of death, and it changes the time limit if someone has been seen by their personal care physician. It has said up to 180 days, but we're changing that to 60 days. And a lot can happen in just a short amount of time. And a lot of times your personal care physician would not be aware of health changes that might occur within just a short amount of time. So that's what this bill does. Be glad to answer any questions.
And if I could just give a little bit of background, Senator Williams and I and a few others, Senator Kirkpatrick and a lot of stakeholders have been working on the death certificate and the challenge many times that families have getting the death certificate. And the reason that Senator Williams has certainly explained well in those meetings is that the death certificate allows not only finality in the diagnosis and so forth that you get with that, but it allows them to do practical things like whether it's closing bank accounts or turning the cable off or Wi-Fi, whatever it is that they may be subscribed to. Many times it requires a death certificate to prove that. You can probably elaborate that on more than I, but suffice it to say that it has been a challenge, and we felt that this was part of the way to improve the ability to get the death certificate and get it done on a timely fashion. Does that can you help us out, me out there a little bit more?
Yes, sir, that explains it very well. We've had about 10 or 12 meetings regarding death certificates, and you and Senator Kirkpatrick both have been there, and we've trying to narrow down the issues faced with families on the obstacles of getting death certificates. A lot of times on an unattended death that occurs out of a hospital, a lot of times you don't have an issue such as a coroner. But in the metro areas, you have the medical examiner systems, and this is where the confusion seems to come, that if someone has been seen by their personal care physician within the last 6 months, then they feel like they should not sign the death certificate, that they should have seen them within 60 days.
Maybe that may be on YouTube later today. So I got that. That was a good move. That was good. I like that. All right, 5. Gotcha. Thank you.
I'd appreciate your favorable consideration. Be glad to answer any
We're
questions.
going to answer questions. Thank you. And Senator Sessler has the first one.
Senator, thanks for this. Just forgive me. I'm just trying to get up to speed on the thinking behind this. What's the thinking behind there being a number in this? I mean, the term deemed to have died unattended by a physician. I mean, if I was seeing a doctor regularly. I'd been in the doctor's office 2 days prior. There was a serious condition. Obviously, that gives you the sense that you're being attended. If I'd seen my doctor 50 days earlier, how does that change my circumstance if I die, alone? If I die in bed, for example.
Well,
And what's the legal? I guess the second part of the question is, what's the legal effect of that versus if I had seen my doctor just 3 months earlier?
Right now you have some medical examiners, the coroners, that are holding to this 180 days. So there's an argument between the personal care physician who's saying, I've not seen this patient in 5 months. I don't know what's been going on with this person. Their health could have changed. They could have had the widowmaker. They could have had a myocardial infarction and been immediately pronounced dead. So just basically this is narrowing the scope, and it's a starting point. As one physician person made a comment, I could see someone today in my office, they may drop dead tomorrow without any warning, and that still doesn't, because I saw them yesterday, doesn't mean I know what killed them. Now, on the other hand would be if someone is undergoing palliative care, or they're in hospice and they've been treated for some terminal illness. You pretty much know what the diagnosis is going to be.
So if someone, for example, if they had, under this bill, 60 days is the new threshold, I understand how that could accelerate things. So if 35 days before someone dies, they had a full physical with their family physician, for example, then the family physician would have an ability to, just under the current law, has an ability to speak into what the cause of death was, as opposed to the coroner or medical examiner. Is that the way the law works?
Well, yeah, it's kind of that way. What it's doing is telling the medical examiner that if this person has seen their personal care physician within the last 60 days, then they need to consult with them. There needs to be consultation to figure out the cause of death.
Okay.
But there again, what the misconception a lot of times is people think a death certificate's a legal document. It's not. It's just a scientific document. It's not a legal document. But what it does do is give someone finality that they can proceed with filing life insurance, closing bank accounts, setting up an estate. Even the simple thing is cutting off a cell phone.
Yeah. I understand the benefits. I'm just trying to understand, just for myself and members of the committee, the difference is if it's after 60 days.
Then the medical examiner pretty much has no option. They've got to deal with it.
They deal with it themselves. If it's been within 60 days, the medical examiner and the physician talk, they kind of come to a conclusion. It's sort of a two-person conclusion as opposed to the medical examiner by themselves. That's
Right.
what I'm hearing?
Right.
Any other questions from the committee or discussion? All right. Well, I guess we're ready for that. Sounds good. Senator Lucas for do pass, and second by Senator Setzler. And any further discussion? All those in favor, let's raise our hand. Okay, I think that's unanimous there. All right. Thank you. Thanks, Senator Williams.
Thank you.
And I don't need to ask you who's carrying it, because you're a senator. You'll be carrying it on the floor, so, okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Senator Williams. And again, I want to give him a shout out that we've been working on this issue, and I think this is one of those, a piece of the puzzle that's going to help with timely death certificates. I think this is going to help.
Yes, sir. I think so too, and I thank you again for your assistance.
Certainly.
Thank you.
All righty. So we are, we now have House Bill 181 by Senator Townsend, and we heard this bill last year, and we passed it, and it went to rules and did not make it to the floor. So this bill has already passed the House, and it's over for here for us to reconsider it. So I hope that we don't need to go through the full discussion and testimony relating to that. What I'd planned to do was have Senator Townsend present the bill, and if he has someone he wants to testify, and then I think one other person wants to testify and maybe has an amendment. So we're going to let the will of the committee rule here, and we're going to discuss this if we need to and vote on it if we get to that. And Senator Townsend, the floor is yours, and you're welcome to sit here or go up there, whatever you'd like to do. Okay, pull that microphone close to you, and I think that will do. Now,
Is that better up there?
if
Okay.
that's, if the leaders want you up there, that's better. So I'm good with that. The other thing I just want to point out, we did have a change. The summary of the bill, which was in your folder, just had a change in the date. We quickly made an adjustment and made and passed out everybody. So if you see that's why we did the new summary, and it says this bill becomes effective on July 1, 2024, if it's passed. Now the bill itself, not the summary, the bill itself had the correct date. We just had the incorrect date on the summary, but we're all kosher now.
Okay. Thank you, Senator Watson. It's a privilege to be here again. Again, thank you for last year passing it. And thank you, the rules, Senator Brass, for you guys passed it last year and just fell short on sine die. But I'm back, and I appreciate being before this committee. Basically, as you remember, I'll keep it short. I know, this is a constituent-based bill down in Glenn County. I live down on the coast. We had 2 people affected by kratom. One eventually OD'd on it and committed and died. The second one became psychotic, wound up in a mental health institution. And so those 2 are constituents, and once I saw the bill, I'm a former educator, so I didn't know much about it until I started doing the research. Then I saw some credible sources like Mayo, Cleveland Clinic, and others who went out and spoke against it and had some real concerns about the safety of it. And the more we dived into it, in the House, as you remember, we had 11 to 12 hours of hearings on it. I was at freshman. Didn't realize it was going to be a long hearing like that, but over, I think, 5 different committee meetings, we got it out of the committee, made some good compromises, talked with the both sides, the American Kratom Association and everybody else involved, and made some, where it's more of a regulation type bill now instead of total banning it. Original intent was to ban it, and then we decided to regulate it. And you'll see the regulations in there that we all agreed to at one time last year. And then we also decided to put some penalties on the manufacturers, because there's a law now, but it's no teeth into it. You can't really enforce it, so the manufacturers can do what they want. We want to make sure Georgians put something in their body and they know what they're getting into. The highlight main thing is proper labeling and proper dosage. That's the main part of the bill. Putting it behind the counter, make sure you're 21. Story, I stopped on the way home on the coast. You get to I-16, you have to drink your Diet Coke and M&Ms and just to stay awake at I-16. Stopped at Shell Station, and there was Reese's Cups, Skittles, and Kratom Cupcakes. Kratom Cupcakes at the counter. Now, I'm not saying the store attendant would have sold the kid or whoever wanted the Kratom, but it was right there for the taking. And so it's like, that's not good. So things that we've got in this bill now will take care of that. And I appreciate everybody agreeing to that. That's what the bill is. We went to multiple negotiations last year. We went in front of the Ledge Council, agreed on everything. And so I'm positive about the bill, constituent-based. As you know, you guys are senators, and you'll do anything for people back home if it's a problem. So that's what we're doing, supporting our community back home. So that's the main part of the bill. I was approached this morning about trying something else. Personally, I like this bill. Hope we keep it the same way, but I'm at the will of the committee, and I appreciate what you guys do, and I respect y'all very much, and I'll answer any questions. I know I do have one constituent here, not constituent, but she's Georgia, her husband was affected by kratom. She'd like to talk if she could.
Yeah.
And then Jeff Breedlove, one of our recovery experts, if you have time, he'd like to speak as well for sure. But that's up to the will committee, and we'll go from there. But any questions for me, I'll be glad to answer anything at all.
Okay, we'll do that. We'll sort of hold questions and circle
Okay.
back is probably the thing to do.
Okay.
Yes, that'd be great. If you wouldn't mind, go ahead and introduce yourself up at the podium, please, and thank you for being here.
Can you see me? Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate. Thank you so much for being here today, and thank you for passing the first bill. This is my former husband that passed away October 22nd, 2020, actually 3 years and 3 months ago today. And I got a call on October 22nd, and it was his work calling, and they said Bill collapsed at work. And he told me he was taking a product that he had found that was working, that he felt like it was helping him sleep. It was great. It was under the false pretense now that it was to a health, under the health product, that it was natural. And so he took that, and he took a drink of a energy drink. So what Kratom doesn't, talking about the regulations, they don't actually tell you what you can and cannot take with Kratom. They don't say you can't take an energy drink with Kratom because it has too much caffeine in it. They don't tell you that you can't take Kratom with tea because it'll kill you. They don't tell you that it's lethal when you mix a Monster drink with it and Kratom at the same time. They don't tell you that. And that's the problem that we have, is nobody knows. Everybody's a guinea pig right now that's on Kratom. They're a guinea pig because they don't know. They could actually, I don't know if you guys heard, but the Panera Bread, the whole thing about the Panera Bread, these two young teenagers were killed because of the caffeine in the lemonade. So if we don't know what's in that lemonade, how are we going to tell about Kratom? So I'm just trying to show you that. So I got the call, and I said, please put me on FaceTime. So I literally watched, and my girlfriend worked for NBC, and she got behind me, and I said, I need you to video this FaceTime, as the paramedics worked on my former husband while he was passing away from Kratom. And when I tell you that had I not had my friends there, I don't know what I would have done. And they took him away. I watched the whole thing. I begged for his life. It's all on video. And it was probably one of the worst moments of my life, begging for his life, knowing what was going on. And at the time, I was trying to find jets to take me up to North Carolina where he was. I was trying to find all these things, and I was trying to get a hold of my daughter so that she could talk to her dad for the last time, not knowing what was going on. And out of frustration, again, not knowing what was going on, I got a call. They said that he had a stroke-like activity, and then he had a seizure-like activity, stroke, and then when the nurse called me, she said, I'm sorry, we lost him to cardiac arrest on the table. And I don't know about anybody in this room, but have you ever had to tell your child that their dad or mom is never coming home? No. If you have, it's awful. And I had to do that. And what she said when I got home, how's Dad? How is he? I said, baby, he didn't make it. He didn't make it. So I'm asking you today to make sure that no one else, no child, can be looked at Kratom. And by the way, there's a new Kratom out called Trainwreck. If that doesn't speak volumes to anybody in this room, Trainwreck, okay. I hope that resonates with you all. Anyway,
We sure appreciate that. Do you
Thank you.
mind sharing us with your last name and where you're from?
Peter Goffner, and I'm originally from here in Atlanta.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Thank you. We appreciate your testimony.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yes, I'm sorry, you have a question. Chairman Huffstetler is on.
Yes.
Thank you. And just a question, the kratom that your husband took, was that a synthetically altered? Was it have a certain brand name or?
I cannot speak about the brand name right now, but it was, I can tell you that it was the night before he passed away. He switched from some capsules to a powder form.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Thank
Yes.
you. Oh, I'm sorry, we do.
Hey,
Thank you for being here today.
thank you so much.
You know, in the last, the last 2.5 years, I know you've dug into this and understood this.
Yes.
In your research, what have you found about the commonality or the frequency about someone taking powder-based kratom or powder form, and then an energy drink and having a cardiac arrest? Is this something? Would you represent this as kind of a one-off, unusual circumstance in the literature, in the data? Is this happening other places? And share what you found with us, if you could.
So I've been doing a lot of research, late nights, early mornings, and I found that is basically the order it goes in. If somebody takes, like for instance, there was a young man, I think it was Pennsylvania. He was drinking tea. He put it in his tea, and the next 20 minutes later, he was on the ground having like seizure-like activity. So it kind of goes in that order: seizure, stroke, cardiac arrest. But in the end, it's cardiac arrest. So to answer your question, it's those characteristics of the seizure-like activity, and then.
I was just,
I'm sorry.
no, I'm sorry.
You have a
Oh,
follow-up?
you mentioned. Oh, I didn't know if you needed me to stop.
No, I
No.
had a follow-up question. I just was communicating with the chairman.
Oh no. So anyway, that's what I've read and that's what I've discovered in my research, and that is my opinion from my research.
So the concern is that there's whereas you might have some data that suggests kratom is not serious, or I'm sure we're going to hear someone say that it's just it's a low-level effect, no danger. Perhaps we would hear that by itself. Your concern is when it's taken with other customary daily products, not some odd thing, but something as simple as an energy drink or tea. You're saying it's the coming together of those things that makes it particularly dangerous in ways the public doesn't understand.
I am saying that, as well as saying that kratom is dangerous by itself. If there's been studies done that say that you can't even mix kratom with kratom at all. So kratom by itself is lethal. And if you just Google kratom, you'll find that as well, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Appreciate it. So we have 3 people that have signed up. I didn't realize that we had those. Jeff Breedlove, Eli Coes or Cohen, or Mac Haddow. I think they may have testified in the past. Anything you did, got some nods. Ms. Breedlove, you did. Is there, if there's anything further to add, then we had one more to testify. I was keeping you in reserve. Then we're good to go. And Ms. Keene, you had a gentleman that you wanted to.
He did not testify.
Yeah. Oh, is that Mr. Haddow?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, then Mr. Haddow, I had said that you would be able to testify, and if you would, Senior Fellow on Public Policy, American Kratom Association. Okay, is that it?
That's it.
All righty.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you for this opportunity. My name is Matt Caddo, Senior Fellow on Public Policy with the American Kratom Association. We represent the 15 million consumers plus in the United States who safely and responsibly consume kratom. We understand, I'm sorry, my apologies, thank you. We support completely adequate and responsible labeling on products to assure that consumers who purchase a Kratom product are able to see the ingredients in that product and the directions for safe use, serving sizes, the number of servings to be taken during the day. And this legislation goes a long way to expand that safety profile. It is desperately needed in order to stop what we see with the current situation, but for the 10 other states that have passed what we call the Kratom Consumer Protection Act, it is unregulated throughout the United States. The FDA did a rush to judgment back in 2012 based on a report of there being 9 deaths in Sweden in a 12-month period, ostensibly from Kratom. And they ordered an import alert, and that led to a 2016 request for scheduling under the Controlled Substances Act to make it a Schedule I substance. That was denied by the Drug Enforcement Administration for lack of information. They then submitted a second request in 2017 that was reviewed by the Assistant Secretary for Health. That was Dr. Brett Giroir in the Trump administration, who rejected and withdrew the FDA's second recommendation for scheduling, calling it embarrassingly poor evidence and data. Again, the FDA had rushed to judgment, calling Kratom dangerous. They went to the World Health Organization, to the UN Commission on Narcotic Drugs, of which the United States is a treaty partner, and they petitioned them to ban Kratom internationally at a much lower level or standard for doing so. And a 12-member group called the Expert Committee on Drug Dependence, experts on substance abuse and addiction throughout the world, unanimously agreed there was insufficient evidence in order for Kratom to be scheduled. Now, that doesn't mean that Kratom is 100% safe. It means that it doesn't meet the criteria for banning Kratom, and we think that consumers need to be protected. We have petitioned, because we represent consumers, not the manufacturers, 85 different companies, and given them to the FDA with documentation on improper marketing of Kratom. The FDA has refused over the last 3 years to prosecute a single one. There are products out there that are dangerously adulterated with synthesized alkaloids that increase their power, and they are causing problems. They need to be removed from the marketplace, and this legislation will ban those kinds of products from being available on the marketplace. But those 9 deaths in Sweden that started all this with the FDA, they later ignored the fact that there was a peer-reviewed published article done by researchers in Sweden that found that, in fact, that Kratom product that killed those 9 people, called Krypton, sold throughout Europe on the internet, was laced with O-desmethyltramadol, the powerful opioid that makes tramadol, and that's what killed those people. Now, you will hear reports of Kratom deaths, and sadly you heard the tragic circumstance here. There's a lot more that we need to know about this. I can assure you that if there were credible death cases that could be attributed to Kratom alone, that the FDA would be all over that, and they'd be making a third recommendation for scheduling. But just in the last 2 weeks, the FDA was ordered in a federal court case in the state of California, where an importer of Kratom was indicted and pled guilty to falsely labeling the product, and the judge wanted to know from the FDA why they believe the Kratom is dangerous. And the response from the assistant U.S. attorney to the judge, and he said, and I quote, "The FDA refused to come to provide us with witnesses or documents to support our position, as well as witnesses and documents that might be inconsistent with our position. The reason the FDA gave, was they have not yet made a determination regarding whether Kratom is dangerous." I have that document to share with the committee if you'd like. The important point here is that the FDA has just recently concluded a dose-finding study on Kratom. They initiated that in 2021, taking a little time to get there, spent a lot of our taxpayer money. They've now determined and dosed humans with Kratom that it's safe now to do what's called a human abuse potential study. We're going to determine what the addiction liability or dependence liability of Kratom will be. That will take a few years, but in the interim, we need to protect consumers. And so we're asking you here today to actually accept this bill. Now, we had made a recommendation that rather than criminalize a retailer, because we're already in this bill putting Kratom behind the counter, rather than criminalize a retailer, let's make an administrative fine if they make a mistake in selling a product. We hope you accept that. New science, based on some of the data that I've just suggested to you, has shown that the level of 7-hydroxymetrogenine, which is a metabolite because of the drying process in the plant, should actually be 2% rather than the 1% that was in the bill. Scientists tell us that if you limit the amount of 7-hydroxymetrioxidine per serving, which this bill does, that you will provide adequate safety for consumers. We recommend this bill. We think it's important. We would like to see the amendments that I've suggested, but Kratom today is being consumed by millions of Americans. Johns Hopkins University documented that many are using it to get off of opioids. It's saving their lives. I have been in dozens of hearings around the country, heard from hundreds of Kratom consumers who've said exactly that. It's saving my life. People that use Kratom that's not adulterated, not synthesized, that is adequately labeled, and that is properly packaged and processed, it is helping people. The fact that people use Kratom with another substance that may interact, there is a system that's available in the federal government called the MedWatch system. Any consumer or medical professional can report to the FDA any of those interactions. And when the FDA sees a cluster of those things, they identify it and they issue regulations to say that warnings have to be put on those products. We support that system, and we think that the referrals should be made here. I'd welcome any questions the committee may have.
Thank you, Ms. Hannah. I'm glad you are supportive of this bill. So anybody on this committee besides Dr. Kirkpatrick heard of the MedWatch system? We got, and we should have excluded, yes. So, all right. So one non-healthcare, the three healthcare people have MedWatch, but I mean, I think that's the point. Got some hands back there, but I'm glad you support it, and why don't we bring Representative Townsend? I think I had elevated you to the Senate, but sorry about that. I apologized for that.
Chairman Watson, I kind of like our local senator, so if that's okay, I'll stay
Yeah, no,
representing.
I got you. He's
No offense to this room, he is my favorite senator.
He's looking for the votes on the committee. I got you. So we appreciate that. And I think, why don't we have you want to say something first, Representative Townsend, or you want to?
I'll say that the intent of this bill to make sure we regulate it correctly. I think we had all the levels ironed out last year. We went through multiple discussions, multiple agreements, and then kept negotiating. I just want to make sure this isn't another delay.
I got you.
But with one thing too about the testing like that, if we had time, Dr. Norman out of the University of Georgia Pharmacy School supports this bill, actually supports banning, what your committee kind of talked about last year, of Kratom. He's the researcher in the state of Georgia that works for the state at UGA. That's probably the best guy you can ask on Kratom. And so he would disagree with that argument we just heard.
I got you. I don't want to get Mr. Breedlove upset.
No, he's good. I like him.
He's giving me the evil eye back there.
No,
So
I like him.
Do you mind yielding the mic for?
Yes, sir.
How many minutes do you need, Mr. Breedlove? He needs 2 minutes. We
Mr.
got you on
you
the
got
clock.
it.
There you go. All right.
Jeff Breedlove for the Georgia Council for Recovery, Person in Long-Term Recovery. This is a constituent issue statewide in every district. There was 11, 12, 15, 20,000 hours of testimony last year. People from across the state came in good faith. 4 moms came and testified. Business owners in Georgia testified. A diversity, a holistic voice was heard, and we all were working in good faith on the current language. Nobody's come to any of those people with this new language. Nobody has. So you talk about consumers. We all worked in good faith. It's consumers that will buy the product in the store. The GBI testified. Some 930 deaths that the GBI, not the FDA, not the federal government, our government knows some 900 Georgians have died because of this stuff. I don't put my faith in the FDA. Put my faith in GBI, put my faith in UGA, who testified that they've not ever tested a product in the state where what was on the labeling matched up what the scientists found out. So due respect, nothing should be done to delay what's in the best interest of consumers. People worked in good faith with you, and this language was agreed upon by a diversity of your constituents. Nobody, those There are good faith, small and big and medium-sized business owners in Georgia who are the backbone of our economy and are the backbone of our state. We're not talking about the good guys. But Kratom cupcakes, I've been in all your districts. I've seen those products. Are you going to play Russian roulette that the bad actor who puts something out and it kills another Georgian doesn't deserve the strongest penalties possible that are in the current version that we've all agreed to? All I want to say is you've had many, many Georgians get to the point where we are today to move forward in a positive, honorable, transparent manner. This new language is not that. And,
You got one question,
yes.
Ms. Breedlove?
Ms. Breedlove, thanks for being here. Which LC version are you supporting specifically? I'm trying to understand. We've got a couple bills in our package.
The most recent version that was, I'm sorry, LC 33951-3S. Is that right? No.
That's not the,
Maybe I'll yell to the author of the bill. for the
yeah, that might
correct
be,
LC
might be a
number.
good idea. There we go.
How about that? Is that a good
There
answer?
we go.
And I do thank
Hang
the
on just a
committee
second.
for allowing me to have a minute.
So what we have in our packet is the original, and then we have this,
The new date, that you gave.
the new date,
Yes.
you know, from that perspective.
From the end of last week.
Simply one of those advocate.
Can you read that out?
We don't have an amendment offer, do we?
Wait a second. We have the substitute.
Yes.
If I said amendment instead of substitute, I apologize.
Okay.
This is the one that.
So what we're going off of is LC 540306S.
That's what you're.
Yes, sir. That's the one that all the work was put onto, sir, by so many Georgians. This is new to everybody. By everybody, I mean everybody that came down and took time out of their lives and traveled from across Georgia to participate in the process, participated in the process for that
Let me
language.
just
Yes, sir.
clarify here.
Yes, sir.
We're all clear on the committee of the LC number, right? So what he's referring to is an amendment that came up, and that's what may be offered, and I was going to allow the amendment to be offered and discussed. That's what he's referring to.
Yes, sir.
The committee will vote it up or vote it down, and that's what he was alluding to.
Correct, sir.
And we don't have that amendment.
That he's, right, doesn't have it. It was alluded to earlier. We don't have it yet, but we will, I presume. And I was going to, thank you, Ms. Breedlove.
Yes, sir. Thank you,
Okay.
sir.
Representative Townsend, do you have anything further?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's go ahead with Senator Brass.
Okay. Number 2.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All right. Now that the drum roll's over and the amendment's coming out, I have some questions first. All right. So, up on lines 26 through 28, processor. So, right there, you're capturing pretty much everybody from the manufacturer to the retailer and everybody in between. Is that? Am I reading that right?
The manufacturer's got the penalties. The manufacturer's got the misdemeanor the first time, and felony the second time.
What about the retailer?
The retailer's
That's-
got a misdemeanor, yes, sir.
But the retailer is grouped under processor according to this definition, if I'm reading this correctly.
Correct. I need to get a copy of my.
Okay, go ahead.
So I can look at it.
Yeah. And so you've grouped under processor, you've grouped manufacturers, distributors, retailers because they sell. You've grouped everybody in one lump sum, and then under first offense, it's a aggravated misdemeanor, which is pretty severe. I mean, aggravated misdemeanor, you're putting a lot of, you're putting that on some serious crimes.
And you're talking regarding the retailer, correct?
Regarding the retailer, right. And to my knowledge, if you look at other industries where the retailer is responsible for controlling the point of sale to underage or not, then I don't know of any other where else where we do that. And that's my concern, is because a lot of times at the retail level, you know, you're talking about an hourly employee who most of the time they don't know what they're selling. They have a job to do, and that's sell. And we're going to put a requirement on them that, okay, you just don't sell it to somebody underage, and which is fine, but I just feel like an aggravated misdemeanor at the retail level is pretty severe.
I understand
And
that.
And that's my concern. And, you know, you're talking about locking up, you know, an hourly employee who may or may not have a whole lot of education. And I just think we ought to be consistent with other laws and other industries that are out there, specifically at the retail level. At the processor level, I've got no problem with what you're trying to do here, and I fully support your bill. I just do feel like at the retail level that I think we should back off that at least a little bit. I mean,
I understand.
maybe compare, you know, another industry you can compare it to is the tobacco. You know, you sell tobacco, there's chance that you can lose your license, and there's like a tiered system, and that might be a good model to look at the retail level only.
I respect that, Senator Brass, thank you. One of the things we had in there, maybe we didn't word it correctly, is willingly and knowingly. So if a person purposely, even though they knew, let's say the elixirs are the most dangerous kind, the extracts, that's the kind that people get hurt from. You don't know what you put in your body, and that's what this bill's all about, is to make sure if a Georgian wants to put something in their body, at least know what they're putting in at a certain dose. Give them a heads up. And so if a retailer purposely knows, hey, this bottle of Kratom's not labeled, it just says Kratom or whatever else, then that's why that part was in there. I believe it's line 96, but that's where it goes there. So if we need to change that, I totally understand, because we're not after the retailers unless they purposely violate the law and knowingly, purposely saying the heck with, right now, there's a
Line
lot of the books
106 is
for it.
where it is.
106, I apologize.
But again, I just feel like you're grouping retailers with the distributors and the processors and the manufacturers, and I think I think they're two totally separate groups, to be honest, and I hate putting.
Okay.
Well, there should be some penalty, and I mean.
Can we lower the misdemeanor fact? I mean, I'm, like I said, I'm not after the retailers unless they knowingly, purposely doing it.
Well, so I guess.
It really isn't.
And maybe I got a question for Ledge Council. Do we need to define retailer defined somewhere else in code? Or can we just simply say the person at the point of sale? I don't know how to word that exactly. But I think they should fall under maybe the same laws that we do with tobacco sales. Which, if I remember correctly, is... Well, I think that's probably where we're going to have to do it unless it's defined in code somewhere else. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think you're going to have to take out on lines 26, you would have to take out the word sales, and you would have to take out the word selling. And then when you get, and then you would need to define it.
Gotcha.
And then we come down later on and put what penalties would occur to them. And I'm okay with saying if they knowingly sell it, then yeah, they should maybe get the
Yeah.
full penalty.
Look at line 45D. It says, no person shall offer the sale of Craven Estate unless such product is behind the counter in an area accessible to the store employees or in a secured location which is only accessible with the intervention of a store employee. again, I mean, if that.
That does, I
that
still don't
doesn't help
see
it.
how that
Okay.
protects the retailer. I'm certainly no lawyer, but they're in the rules, Chairman.
No, I respect that.
Sure. You can go ahead. Senator Setzler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Offer to the author.
Yes, sir.
I mean, to frame this, if you're selling smokes to cigarettes to some kid, and that's a misdemeanor. We're talking about something that has a life implication here. You have life and death involved in this. So, I would offer to the gentleman for the 28th. I mean, the issue should perhaps be not to drop it down to a misdemeanor where the fine is no higher than $1,000, but frame it so that the language and the behavior is clarified. That if you violate it, you're committing a high and aggravated misdemeanor. I mean, you can handle it on the language knowingly, the level of the offense that leads to a high and aggravated misdemeanor, versus the act itself. In my belief, the thinking behind making a high and aggravated misdemeanor with a $5,000 potential fine is appropriate because you have life and death here. It's not just selling cigarettes or not just a status offense. Okay. We have a person here whose husband died as a result of drinking it with an energy drink. So, in my view, leave the high and aggravated misdemeanor in place, but make sure there's a knowingly element that when you do these things and you cross that threshold, then you get into that high and aggravated threshold. There's two ways to handle this. There's the threshold and there's the penalty. And I think the seriousness of the behavior warrants the high and aggravated. We just got to make sure the language is right to get us there.
And you said it better than I did. I'll show you a picture. If you can see it, I'd be glad to pass the phone around. Basically, that's Kratom with the Red Bull display.
We got
So
you.
basically, if you know where I'm going.
Thank you, Representative Townsend. Ms. Crittenden, do you have the ability to make those changes on the fly, or do we need to revisit this issue on Wednesday? What's that?
I need a moment to look up retailer. I mean, I've got some language here, so I need a moment to get it.
Do we need can we recess for, say, we got 6 minutes. Do you need 10 minutes, or do you want us to come back on Wednesday? Okay, I think that's reasonable.
Yes, sir.
So, as I said earlier, we will let the will of the committee, and we got a little divergence of opinion here, and I'm certainly happy with that, but I think that we can come to a reasonable way to get there. I can certainly see both sides from that standpoint. I think coming up with what Senator Setzler and Brass and you and all, and you know what? We didn't get any of the lawyers on the committee to weigh in. I tell you what, this has been a great day, and we're going to finish before 3 o'clock.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So we're going to come up with language that I think we can all agree on, and then we're going to come back here on Wednesday, and we'll try to do that first. So if everybody can have their thinking caps on and sort of just touch base with me ahead of time if you have any questions. All right. You have some questions? Okay. We're going to make some adjustments. All right, so if there's no further business, meeting's adjourned. We'll revisit this on Wednesday. Thank you. Okay.